professional and respectful is the key to building trust. And if there is no trust, there's virtually no healing in a relationship. Fear of judgment, letting your doctor down, or even being annoying can lead to fake niceness. I see it all the time in my patients when we're talking about them taking their medications on time, or following their diet, exercising, meditating, or whatever it may be. My tip-off is if the patient goes into smile and nod mode, like they just smile and nod at whatever I'm saying, even if it doesn't actually match what the conversation is about. I see this really commonly in patients who are hard of hearing or don't speak English well. And incidentally, and it's not by accident that those two patient populations are more likely to be gaslit. A good doctor should recognize that and slow down to make sure that the patient is understanding what is going on. And if you're the patient, you need to trust your instinct. If you feel that you're not understanding something, and feel comfortable respectfully interrupting your doctor. The more empowered you feel, the more attuned you are with your gut instincts. Number 2 is medical gaslighting. I recently spoke with Amber and Paul about this because it is so pervasive in medicine. When our sanity is questioned, like when we were gaslit, we're more likely to ignore our gut instincts. And like you've seen, when we don't trust our gut instincts, we're less likely to speak up for ourselves and advocate for ourselves and get the care that we deserve. That's why we need to level the playing field with our doctors and with others in places of authority to minimize the power differential that underlies most gaslighting. Things like blowing off your symptoms, calling everything in your head, interrupting you constantly, or downplaying or outright ignoring your concerns are all some examples of gaslighting. Watch my video linked below for the full scoop on how to prevent yourself from being gaslit in medical settings. But in short, you're going to want to take notes on paper. Be dressed in your normal clothes and not your gown. Be eye level with your doctor and bring a friend or family member with you. The less the power differential, the more you'll be able to act on your instincts and better get the care that you deserve. Number 3 is medical trauma. It's very real and can have very real consequences. When patients have been hurt in the past after placing their trust in someone, it's no surprise that they're less likely to put their trust in others. It may be subconscious, but some patients will develop a mistrust of authority. Or worse, it can lead to a mistrust of their own instincts, if they instinctually trusted someone who turned out to hurt them. This is so sad, but very real, and I've seen it in many of my patients. If this has happened to you, you should reach out to a mental health professional to help you overcome this potentially subconscious self-gaslighting, because it can cause us to question our gut instincts and doubt ourselves. There are more than 3 reasons for why people lose touch with their instincts, but these are the most common I see in my patients. It's also crucial to remember that not all instincts are accurate, but when we've been hurt in the past or traumatized in the past, we lose our ability to act on well-placed instincts, whether that's with your doctor or with your boss or anywhere else. If we don't speak up for ourselves and advocate for ourselves, we're more likely to get hurt. It's not about being the squeaky wheel. It's about having respect for yourself because you are the expert of your body. And when you approach your doctor with that mindset, you're more likely to get the care that you deserve. If you learned something new, please hit that like button and share what you learned with others. Subscribe to keep up with all my videos. And remember, you have more power over your health than you've probably ever been told.
Translate entire websites in one tab.
If the stars fall and the earth it begins to bend.
The intelligent minorities can engineer consent through the use of manipulation, propaganda, and control, and we should do it.
People have got to know whether or not their president's a crook. Well, I'm not a crook.
We're in the midst of a serious financial crisis, and the federal government is responding with decisive action.
I know that the American people share my deep belief that if a danger exists in awareness of how easily our behavior and even our identity can be completely taken over. But people are waking up. I spent 20 years in the U.S. military. I'm a behavior expert, trained psyops. I'm a best-selling author in behavioral psychology. I want to show you exactly how to identify what we call engineered reality, or what some people call psyops. At the end of this, I'm going to give you a tool that's literally going to give you a score out of 100 that shows you how likely something is to be a psyop. Let's do this. So the first thing you need to know is following the FATE model: focus, authority, tribe, and emotion. This is what triggers the mammalian part of our brain that makes all of our real decisions. The first part is focus. Psyops always aim to hijack your attention with repetition, shocking visuals, or fear-inducing scenarios. Some examples are like 24/7 media coverage of a crisis with constant repetition of terms like unprecedented. So with this, pause and ask, why is this message being pushed so aggressively? So compare how much airtime different stories are receiving and note any disproportionate focus. The second part here is authority. Trusted figures might shift their tone or positions unnaturally to support the narrative. So watch very closely for expert panelists or endorsements where authority figures might speak outside of their expertise. Pay close attention to that one. Then we have tribe. So messages that polarize opinions or create stark in-groups versus out-groups, or exploit our tribal instincts. For example, labeling groups as patriots versus traitors or scientific versus deniers. Be very careful when you hear that language. Finally, we have emotion. So be wary of any communication that triggers strong emotions like fear, hope, or outrage without any clear, verifiable evidence. So emotional responses suppress critical thinking. Emotional responses suppress critical thinking. So as a tip here, analyze the evidence that's presented to you. If facts are replaced by appeals to emotion, you need to be very, very cautious. As an example of this, think about like a news channel repeatedly showing images of empty grocery shelves and panicked shoppers during a food supply scare. It dominates every broadcast and it pushes people into fear-driven behavior. Next, question novelty. Our brains are wired to focus on sudden or unusual changes because they signal potential threats or opportunities. And this is an evolutionary survival mechanism. Psyops exploit this by creating events that break normal expectations, like unexpected crises or dramatic revelations. So ask yourself, why is this new? So consider if the event or somebody's message has been artificially manufactured or timed. Look for patterns like sudden shifts in public opinion, trending, hashtags, and usually viral videos that seem very coincidental. So for this one, just picture a new viral video just claims to expose a government cover-up, and it conveniently comes out the exact same day that there's some damaging evidence against some high-ranking official. Timing shifts. All of this is part of the NCI system I developed for teaching tradecraft and extreme psychological operations. And there's even a gigantic textbook for all of this stuff in the description. Definitely not for everybody, but it's definitely the most comprehensive guide in the world for this stuff. So next item, look for multiple sources. Centralized narratives create an echo chamber. They silence dissent and a narrow perspective. For example, if all media outlets present identical talking points, it is a humongous red flag. So actively seek out contrarian or independent voices, even if they challenge something that's already in the news. But in reality, an example, during a maybe breaking health crisis, all the major news outlets report on the exact same study, but independent researchers revealed the study was funded by a company selling the solution. So watch for that group speak. Next is identify cognitive dissonance weapons. Let's talk about how this works. So cognitive dissonance comes up when new information clashes with our identity or our beliefs. So psyops exploit the hell out of this by including micro agreements. Micro agreements are little, small, seemingly harmless concessions to shape your identity. And over time, you're going to unconsciously align your behavior to reduce that internal conflict. And as a weaponization example of this, a PSYOP might present you as a part of moral or intelligent enlightenment, like only good citizens do X, Y, Z. If you disagree with that, you risk some identity conflict there. So,
You could book this house with someone else, but with us, you get rewards.
reflect on your identity and ask, am I being nudged to identify with some other? Be very careful with any campaigns that are asking for seemingly minor commitments like signing petitions, changing your profile picture that defaults into some bigger compliance requirement. As an example of this, let's say a company launches an ad campaign and they claim real patriots buy local. If you disagree with their product, it feels like rejecting your identity as a patriot. So this pushes you to be very, very skeptical about those identity. Next, looking for those emotional scripts. And what I mean by this is the scripts that were written in our brains by our ancestors. So manipulated narratives trigger instincts like the fear of loss, scarcity, social rejection, or danger. For example, a media story about food shortages might activate survival scripts that cause panic buying and stuff like that. When we have scarcity fears, sudden warnings about limited resources like water or medicine also sparks that kind of behavior. When we have tribal rejection, those are threats of being socially outcast, like selfish. Those things override logic everywhere. And as a tip for this, break the script by focusing on the facts. What's the likelihood of this scenario? Compare the claims with others. For this, just picture where a politician says something like, if we don't act now, our children will not have a future. This taps into survival instincts, these ancestor scripts in our head, and it's tied to protecting offspring. It creates urgency without any facts. Next is follow the money. So there's a trail of beneficiaries here. So identifying who benefits always is going to reveal the money. So look for funding sources like sponsorships and political connections that are tied to the narrative. So use tools like OpenSecrets.org or public financial records to see who profits from this. So for policies or campaigns, identify the industries like pharmaceuticals, tech companies, etc. that stand to gain. So to illustrate this in your mind right now, picture a charity that's promoting clean energy awareness, and they seem noble until investigations are showing that it's funded by a solar panel corporation that's lobbying for subsidies. Next, and this one is very important.